beautiful friends, and welcome to the second of my new series called Living from the Heart. And as you can see, I'm doing it really differently today. We are in the garden, and I have my dear friend Annabelle with me, Annabelle Nicoll. And we're going to have a really fun conversation. I think probably mostly focused on new ways of doing business from the heart. It's kind of the theme that's coming through. So I'm going to hand over to you to introduce yourself.
So we were just talking before we came on this bit how we struggle with the beginnings of things. So there was a book I've been reading recently about indigenous tribes and how they don't understand the concept of answering a simple question. It's not even in their makeup, because for them to explain something means to explain so much. And so that just popped into my mind when you said introduce yourself, because it's kind of that those little bullet point questions, like who am I, where do I live, what do I do, how can I categorize myself? And I suppose if I wanted to expand that to an introduction, it would be that I suppose I'm quite a creative, explorative, trial and error kind of character who finds herself at this midpoint in my life, really in a place of surrender and letting go of concepts that I have been brought up my whole life to believe into. And I feel very newly birthed in a way. So to define what I am right now feels, what I'm noticing is this kind of journey between defining and releasing and defining and releasing. It's like the breath in and out, in and out. So today I'm feeling really expansive and excited and full of possibilities. I work with a lot of medicines, the plant kingdom mostly. I work with a lot of different modalities that have just kind of gone into the unconscious now. So I work a bit like you, we were talking about this earlier. I just, whatever's arising in the field, and the medicine is in just responding to what my intuitive nature is guiding me to say.
Yes, which is what this is the way I like to do these interviews as well, or conversations, is just to see what wants to be spoken. I never have like the questions written down, so just never know where it's going to go. And I was saying earlier, we've just had, should we share what we've just done as well? So I'm going to do a little plug for Annabelle right now, because Annabelle has a company called Garden of Alchemy. And one of the things, because you work with a lot of plant medicines, and one of them is cacao. And so we had a little cacao ceremony together before we began, to really ground in the energy of what we wanted to bring through. And it's just such a beautiful sacred space that we created together, and that you led me into. And so we're coming to you from this, like, I hope, I feel really dropped into my heart right now, and it's really beautiful being outside as well. And so we are bringing through the medicine of the cacao right now, and wanting to share this space from the heart. Do you want to say anything about the Garden of Alchemy, like as your business, just to kind of give more of an idea of how your expression is landing in the world right now?
Yeah, so, it's funny, all these like definitions of what you are. I tried to find the most broadest kind of word that could define possible versions of me into the future. So the word alchemy came to me, because alchemy is like, an alchemist is always creating. You're mixing different things together, and there's a magic in that. And for me, magic is kind of the bedrock of everything I do, because that is where my creative life force feels the most, when I'm, just in the creation, and that feels very magical. And garden is like the relationship to the plants, but also the
Oh
garden.
my God, of course we're sitting in the garden.
Yeah, we're sitting in the garden.
And you actually have a plant attached to the back of your head. You're being,
oh yes,
you're working with the spirit of the
bramble
or blackberry.
Blackberry, great. So yeah, the name landed because I have, you know, I'm labeled dyslexic, you know, in the mainstream, but also what I see, what I believe is dyslexia is just the capacity to be in many, many different worlds at the same time. And part of my needing to, I suppose, contain all of that was to create a container, and the Garden of Alchemy felt like this really nice container. There can be lots that grows in a garden, you know, you can have vegetables, you can have weeds, you can have manicured. It just gives, but it does create a sense of, you know, a containership. And the alchemy is the magic, and it also opens up that multiple people can live in the garden. So there's me and my partner, who are the kind of founders, I suppose, of this. But the vision long term is to have kind of cross pollination and different people in the garden, and to build it as to build a business in a garden, basically. To just like permaculture looks at the relationship of how everything works. That's kind of the bedrock of how I'm being taught in my life to interact with other people. How do we become more like permaculture in our business, and how do we use these plant allies to align us into relational aspects, so that we get to all each individually bring our medicine in without this old school paradigm of one up, one down, or competition. And what I see happening when I work with the spirit of cacao is it very much wants to bring in this energy. So it's not like a passive Zen, like tea ceremony, where, you know, it's more about mindfulness. It's very much, it just wants to create like that energy, that life force in the heart that wants to go to work. But where that energy comes from is in relational to every aspect. So there is this sense of like, we're not moving forward until the whole moves forward, and the whole being us first.
Yeah, beautiful.
You know, and so what I'm seeing is every time I do business, it's such a weird word for me now. It's in transition because the old paradigm of what it is falling away. I decided a year ago that I would only ever do business with cacao. And so it just became this kind of slightly anarchistic and exciting thing to think, oh yeah, I can create the rules. Like,
absolutely.
Why not have ceremony around my business?
Yeah, totally.
So I have got my accountant, web designers, you know, I've every single person who I work with sits and has cacao with me, because
which is why we're here outside now, because like Annabelle was like, we're going to do a cacao ceremony beforehand, and I was like, well, how are we going to video it? Like, I don't do it like this. Yeah. But hey, this is what we were saying about like needing some flexibility. It's time for change to happen in business.
Yeah, it what I feel is happening is, you know, and I've talked about this a little bit before in various things, is that there's this kind of paradoxical nature in the transition of our species right now, which is a kind of, on one level, there's a lot being asked to let go of in people's lives, and that can feel like chaos, or but when you're on this path, you know that is really just an opportunity for you to be moved into something new, you know, to let go of the old ways of being and to step into something new. And what I feel with cacao is it's doing it very gently. So unlike some of the bigger, stronger plant medicines, this is on a physical level, your arteries are dilating, your heart is beating, magnesium is being pumped through your system. You are having a superfood injection. So on a physiological level, you're going to be feeling more oxygen to the blood, you know. And if you think about kind of that, just on a physical level, you're going to be feeling good. And when we feel good, we kind of tend to make better decisions. But on an energetic level, this is medicine for the heart.
Yeah.
And the heart is like our, you know, the heart is the pump. You know, the heart is I always saw the heart as the only bit that we don't know who pumps that. Who pumps the heart? And it's like source pumps the heart, God pumps the heart, love pumps the heart, and so it's this idea of like, oh, I'm going to be pumping love through my veins, and when I drink this cacao, like love is going to be pumped into everything I do. And what would it look like just imagine, and this kind of excites me, what would it look like if we made our decisions with love?
Yeah.
Our choices with love.
Yeah.
Like, can you imagine
the world,
the ricochet? And we don't need to like even imagine it. We just need to remember times when we have made decisions from love and we saw how well that did, but we get hurt and we have stuff that we carry, and it's very easy to go, especially in the world of business, that's not realistic, there's not a model for that, what's your forecast for that, how are you going to justify that, you need a business loan for this, and da, da, da. But what I've experienced working with Cacao is almost a 180 in how it wants us to show up for business. It's like plans, agendas, strategies, like they're all paradigm ways of working, and it's really hard. Like, I was called Little Miss Filofax as a kid. Like, I love planning, and so I've been on a big journey into like, well, how would I set up a business, and not have planning at the central part of my thing. But what it's saying is that plans can exist, but they come from a present moment orientated space.
Mm-hmm.
So in the moment, let's say when we're drinking cacao and in drops an idea, I can manifest or create a plan from that place.
Yeah.
But not a plan from a place of like, yeah, I got to figure this out, and then we're going to call marketing people in, and we're going to
and I'm doing it on my own, and it's just me, and I've got to figure it out. And like, I like when we were talking earlier, and you were talking about, we were talking about love being like the creative force behind everything, like all the creative force of life is love. And so when you're creating from that place, then we have all of these allies that have that same energy running through them. And there was something you were saying earlier about the dreaming space that's coming into my mind. And
yeah, I think one of the things that I've noticed with cacao is it takes the ego and it just puts it to the side, and it just drops in our higher selves. So when I'm sitting in a circle or one-to-one, I never see myself as the shaman or the facilitator. I see myself maybe similar to like a set of druids or something, like a higher self council coming together. And what happens in that is this just amazing capacity of ideas to drop in and conversations that are in the field. And what I'm seeing from what can happen in co-creation in groups of people like that is just if you want to even look at it like from an old paradigm, you're going to waste less time because you're going to have coherence in the fact that everybody's being heard and listened to. And one of the things in business models is that they're spending so much money in kind of how do we make our staff feel good, how do we motivate the staff. And the whole thing is like throwing a lot of money at trying to band-aid what could be much simpler in a way, which is, what about just sitting still for 5 minutes every morning, dropping the nervous system out of fight or flight into a calm space from their travels, from their kids, whatever, allowing just a moment of breath and relaxation. Have some cacao instead of the morning coffee. It doesn't mean you can't have your coffee later, but what if you just experimented, or it's a big day, have your cacao with a sense of meeting the humanness in each of the people in the room. Just a little bit like how you're doing today, a little bit about like what you're grateful for, your intentions. Maybe the CEO of the company or the person who's leading it in a way would just share, a little bit about where their dream is today, a little bit about where they're hoping to achieve, and just that sense of giving reflection time and catching up time with everybody just allows a bonding to happen, an immediate bonding. And with the cacao, the heart's open, there's a sense of like, oh, I care about you, and I care about you, and I care about you. And then from that caring, people feel met. And when people feel met, then they can say, okay, what I can offer today is I could get this done, or this is where my energy is going, or,
Yeah.
you know, this is where I'm feeling resourced to or
And
inspired to
there's
work.
another bit coming into that I just want to give
Mm,
voice to, of like where we get to meet ourselves.
mm,
So like um just taking that time to meet ourselves before we start
mm,
working on any project. And
mm,
I'm just thinking like of like somebody like me who is just embarking on their own like I
mm,
wouldn't even call it a company, but like wanting
mm,
to
mm,
expand an online business. And like I'm taking my time with this cacao.
mm,
Like once a week I do it now,
mm,
where I have a day where it is like where I sit with the
mm,
cacao and I just come into alignment with myself,
mm,
you know. And
mm,
then like so like if yeah, in any
mm,
environment, if you're given the space to come into alignment with yourself
mm,
and you're honored for your inputs,
mhm,
that you have something, that you have wisdom within you, you know,
mm.
it opens, for me it opens that space of wisdom within me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And there's so much drama, you know, from the body running too fast, you know. And it's not to say that every company is going to, you know, have a therapeutic space for all of their practitioners, but I feel it's a bit like, you know, doing the laundry. You know, if you do a little bit each day, it doesn't pile up. And I think it's the same with, you know, getting the best out of people is just a sense of
Mm.
like, can you imagine what it'd be like to cycle to work or to go to work knowing the first bit of your day is going to be nice? Like,
Mm-hmm.
can you imagine the motivation in the staff to get
Yeah,
to work?
yeah.
You know, there might be a lot less latenesses. But everyone's going to have like come into a room that's just energetically maybe got some incense in it and it's just a little bit dropped down, and maybe they have an essential oil just to ground them, and they are past a cacao and there's nothing they need to do. They're just allowed to relax and be. Wouldn't you want to get to work?
What
I
a
would
beautiful
totally
vision.
get to
I
work.
mean, and actually, I don't know about you, but like for me now, like I have to have a morning practice.
Mm.
Like I know, like if I don't have my morning practice, my day doesn't
Absolutely.
flow in the same way.
Absolutely.
And yeah,
Yeah, and
yeah.
this is what I've been learning in doing ceremony for the last forever, it feels like, that the whole purpose of doing these medicine journeys and doing ceremony is about how to live ceremony in life.
Mm,
And one of the things that
mm-hmm.
I want to bring is that bridge. Like, yes, a lot of people are doing morning practices, and it's a big buzzword. Every spiritual yoga school, whatever, will say, start your day well and your day will go well. And yet, there's something what happens when we go into the professional world or the business world where it's like, well, you do that on your home turf. You know,
Mm.
that's a kind of private thing to do on your own, like, which is lovely. I would still have my morning practice on my own, but imagine going into a morning practice with a collective, with a group. Can you imagine what then starts to happen energetically within a company that operates from that? So one of my visions coming through at the moment is very much to work with already conscious companies to start off with. So companies that have got like sustainability or heart-centered or kind of the betterment of humanity at the forefront, and to be able to go, you know, like, you guys have such amazing vision, you've birthed this project. Now, to create coherence in your workforce, you need to create certain rituals and certain ceremonies that will be able to bring the people together, like a family would bring kids around the table in the evening. And then you will get the best flow out of the experience, because it just becomes a little less about you and the I and a little bit about the whole. And when the
Mm.
whole
Mm.
starts working together, that's when you can really see what I believe is true success, which is not a fat paycheck. Real success is just having a kind of sense of, I can sleep at night because I know every aspect of my business is in harmony. I know that all the people I pay, all the medicines I source, all, you know, this is my life speaking. There is no shortcuts I've taken to get a profit margin. If anything, it's the opposite. I've put more money in because I want to stay more ethical, you know. So we support the farmers in Ecuador with the cacao. You know, there's a charity being set up, so £2 of every bag goes back. And it's this whole kind of idea of like, are we considering the whole chain of events? And I promise it was the ally of cacao that made me. I think I was quite single-minded. I was a photographer, you know, years ago. I was a chef. I've always worked single because I can't really handle working with people. But I feel like it's taken me to this medicine journey to be ready to work with people, how one should really work with people, which is, I want to see your great self. That is when I have a client, when I work in ceremony, I want to meet your great self, and I want to mirror that back to you. And I want you to go into the world, and I want you to meet the great selves in each and every person. And I want us to, what Cacao seems to be saying is, when I get the image of it, it's just like bring the ceremony into life. It doesn't really matter, even if it was a cup of coffee, if you brought reverence to it.
Absolutely.
But the fact is that Cacao does have this lovely tradition of being a ceremonial drink that, for those who don't know, chocolate, believe it or not, was originally a medicine. And then they got highly corrupted. The cocoa bean, the fat got extracted, the powder got taken out, it got overheated, so it loses all its nutritional energy, and it gets grinded in this stainless steel thing. So it's just pretty much, you only need 12% of cacao powder in a chocolate bar to call it a chocolate bar. So it's just not chocolate. And so this original 100% bar of chocolate, this is a whole food. And this is not only like on the physical that we talked about, but this was drunk by the Mayans. They were an amazing race of people. Like, look at the Mayan calendars. I mean, if you want to do research on the kind of consciousness of the Mayans, this was their medicine. Cacao was their medicine. So it's coming back, and it's coming back fast because people's systems are craving that warmth and that connection.
And it really feels it's the feminine coming in as well. That's what I feel with it. Like, when I sit with it, I feel like I'm really stepping into that feminine aspect of me, like, that hasn't really had a voice or hasn't been heard. And I don't know. So I just see that image as you're talking of, like, it's like coming over as a wave of like heart and.
But also kick ass, like Cacao is not like, let's just like daydream off into the la la la, like, the aspect of feminine a lot of people would think. Like, for me, it's bringing in so much drive, but not drive like that kind of masculine competitive drive, but just this kind of
passion.
Yeah.
Like, I feel that in the heart, like the passion comes from the heart. And wouldn't that be amazing for all business to be done from passion, to be done from passion, in alignment with love, from a centered place. I really feel that there's just such a new template coming in for business now, and not just corporate business, but like all of this individual, like you and I, that are working in our small ways in the world, and there's a new template dropping in. And it's really beautiful to have these like medicine allies, nature, right? To have nature, for us to work in conjunction with nature, to co-create with nature. It's really what my journey has been the last is at the moment, is learning how to do business in a really different way, that supports us individually, but where it doesn't feel like work, and it's a joy.
And it is a journey, because we are deconditioning, and I'm not there. When I set this intention probably about 3 years ago, it just dropped in that I would do more business with heart. The vision was pretty epic, and in that moment I was like, oh yeah, I can totally see a world where we're all loving each other. And the reality is, like, I come from a very patriarchal family. They built ships in the Second World War. There was, quite white colonial energy in my ancestral field. It's not like I have dropped into this kind of, I just drink cacao and business.
No, you've done your shadow work, haven't you? I mean, you've done deep, like, you're the queen of shadow work.
When I got into cacao, I was a bit surprised, because I work with this other medicine called Cambo, which is a bit kind of, it's a purgative process, and it's very much about kind of cleaning your energetic system. And because it's got this feminine energy, it kind of balances that in as well. But it also has, the first round we drink of cacao, we drink without sweetener in it. And the idea is, you should really drink the whole thing without sweetener, but we're so conditioned to have sweetness in there. But the idea is that sometimes there's blocks in front of the heart, so for us to be heart-centered, we we have to clear and we have to move. And one of the things that's coming, I'm doing a bit of writing at the moment about this business with heart, and one of the things that's coming in is that healing has to be an integrated part of the business, because we can't separate the person out from their whole selves.
Right.
And we were talking about this earlier a bit as well, which has become a bit of a spiritual shadow in my experience, is this idea of people not taking full ownership for themselves because they can call it their shadow, or they can call it their guides, or they can call it their this. And actually what I'm hearing is, what would it be to confidently own the whole lot? You know, yeah, on some level it gives the ego a little bit of check to, you know, I do like to refer to it as my plant allies, you know, like my support system. But ultimately it's me that's making the decision at the end of the day, and I need to own that, because otherwise there's a dangerous slippery slope of taking that hierarchy that the patriarchal so gently has, which is like, well, you can't attack me because my guides told me so. And I'm not saying that people who work from this do this, because I know loads of amazing people who work with guides.
I reference my guides.
Yeah. And but it's just something come to me recently, because I think we still struggle to own self-responsibility, you know, and for business to succeed, we need confidence. We talked about this earlier. You know, the business model out there is highly confident, you know, cocky. It's very
it's actually not real confidence though, is it? It's a mask pretending it's confident. It's trying to, like, I'm just remembering having a conversation with an ex where he's saying, oh yeah, I just blag it, I'm blagging it, so it's not real confidence. So it looks like it's all shiny and confident, and there's beautiful suits and everyone, you know, like kind of like there's a I mean, somebody I've been listening to recently kind of calling it like Disneyland, like it looks all beautiful on the outside, but you go underneath and it's not confidence, it's absolute insecurity.
And I think like a business that shows up more honest, you know, to say, you know, to be honest in a morning ceremony, to be like, you know what, I'm just feeling really vulnerable, or I'm feeling really angry today, or I'm upset I didn't sleep much last night, or I had a fight with my partner, you know, without going into too much details, you know, just to be able to just be human. And then to be like, you know, sometimes just having that witnessed is enough. Is enough healing. You know, because then people go through the day being mindful that that person's shared that, and they might be extra nice to them, or bring them a coffee, or they might just give them a hug, or they might just be like, wow, we haven't just come into work, no one knows where anyone is, they don't know where they've come from, and then there's suddenly like little robots into this like little machine that they have to do whatever their little chore is, but they're not allowed to have any emotion in that, they're not allowed to have any sense of being in that. And yet the ironic thing is, in my journey with business, we were talking about this earlier as well, it's in the being that everything gets done. I like thank goodness for the goodness of goodnesses that I did not get really successful at business. I did try, because I wasn't ready to hold what I'm ready to hold now.
Yeah, absolutely. Me
Which
too.
is preparation is everything. Like confidence, preparation. We were saying, the shaman will always say that the point of a shaman is to dream the new dream. And we need to sit and listen to this dream that wants to manifest through us. By sitting and creating space, by using medicines, by using different techniques, we can start to like open up our sensory systems. We become more sensitive. We become more in tune with the wavelengths of nature. You know, someone was saying to me the other day, you know, Ireland pre-Christian, it was quite normal to talk about fairies.
Oh, totally.
You know, and it's this kind of, actually we've just lost. But what happens in that resensitizing is it's like we literally have become more sensitive. So what we need to do is create stronger boundaries and stronger containers. So that's where the masculine energy comes back in. So for me, Cacao, even though it's a feminine energy, I've always felt very resourced. Like it doesn't feel like it just puts me out there, like exposed to the world. Like I feel a confidence and a sense of discernment on what's okay and what's not okay, what seems to protect me and align me to the right people. So yeah, it's it's funny when we talk about, feminine and masculine, and because it's the chicken and the egg, which comes first? Is it that the influx of feminine energy, creates healthier masculine energy in me, or
And
whatever?
actually, you can't have one without the other. One doesn't exist without the
No.
other. So, yeah, I think there is a kind of breaking down of that right now.
Yeah, so what I see, a bit like it is a whole food, it does seem to work very strongly on my masculine and feminine
Mm,
aspects.
mm,
I feel like I'm so much quicker to know what's not in alignment with me, and what,
yeah.
what is a yes and what is a no. And I also feel like I'm able to see through the bullshit, and I'm able to operate in a place where I can feel things even if they've not been said, and that's a sensitivity. And I think for anyone running a successful business or wanting to be part of a successful business, I think it's very much about being able to access that sensory field, because really at the end of the day, everything's energy. So if you got a workforce and bitching about you behind their back, or they're not really, they're trying to bunk off onto Facebook every 3 minutes because they really don't want to be there, then all of that's going into the mix. So whereas you gather people at the beginning, you're like, what is it that you're wanting? What is it that you're needing? How can we as a company make your day at work seem like a thing that you want to jump out of bed and get to? You know, that's the preparation. That's the
Yeah.
preparation. And even if that took 50% of a workforce's day, I can guarantee you that the next 50% would be more productive than a whole day at work.
Yeah, and I kind of want to sort of bring it back to that, like for the sort of self-employed, independent people as well. It's like my experience in the last couple of weeks has really been that practice to really spend time in that alignment energy, to do the preparation, like to sit in the energy of what we want to create and what we want to bring through, so we actually know what it is that we're doing, rather than just being like a bit of a headless chicken, like following all the things we've been told by other people. This is how you're meant to do business, where actually the only way of doing business is the way that you want to do it, or an individual company wants to do it. It's like we were talking about the overlighting energy of things, weren't we, earlier as well. It's like everything has soul, everything has a life force. And like when we attune to that overlighting dream or the essence of it or something, and we're co-creating with it. It's like to do that groundwork on the energetic level. Like, yeah, this week's been amazing for me, like learning about, or last couple of weeks, like about what marketing looks like for me, and getting the message, like, go and lie down. Just go and lie down in the grass, or like go and ground yourself, visualize, like dream, be back in the dream, and create from that space. And that's as much about me listening to myself as well. So like you're saying, on that bigger scale, when you have a company and those individual people are being witnessed and heard, that for people that are entrepreneurs, or doing it on a smaller scale, that we really bring it back to ourselves and our co-creation with love, with spirit, whatever you want to call it.
Definitely. I mean, there's so many aspects of this dropping in at the moment. I've started to write something. I keep joking to my partner. I keep saying, I'm going to write a PhD on business and cacao. And then I'm like, what? I don't write a PhD. A PDF. That's it. My dyslexic mind. And then I've said it 3 times, and I kind of think maybe there's something in this. And so as we're talking, I'm getting like chapter headings that I've kind of written already and that are coming through. But so, we've discussed confidence, and we've discussed preparation and the capacity to be in alignment. But I think the other main thing is coming in, which is for success, and I mean the purest sense of success, to operate is a redefined relationship with time. And I think very much as the feminine, we are the portals for that, in the fact that we as a patriarchal have been working on a solar day system for a long time. We wake up, there's a timeline between morning and bedtime where we have to achieve. And in the feminine cycle, we work on the moon cycle. We have a menstrual cycle. We have an inbuilt timing system. We just have to follow that. That's the structure in a way, where already donating that as a species we need to spend 20% at 50% in preparation, and then 50% maybe putting it out there. So just moving from a daily into, let's say, a month, or a lunar phase, if you for the men, following the moon, and often if you've got a society which is pretty much going to be 50% women in it, the energy of the feminine is also going to hold a relationship for how everyone needs to show up around that. So imagine systems that not only respect that, but also, and the other word that's coming is, are devoted to that, because the clarity that comes through the feminine when she is able to be on her bleed, or the capacity for her to be able to tune into truth and to be able to download, is so potent that if you imagine a system of people that created space for that in the workforce, where then afterwards they would come back in and they would share that in relationship, then the energy from the masculine aspect would want to come in when the woman is in their yin phase and create, and then and everybody gets met.
God, can you imagine a world where women's wisdom on that level is integrated into business? I mean, that's just an incredible vision.
And people, I get a little bit funny with this stuff because I'm so I'm Leo double Aquarian, and I'm so bigger picture things, and for me it's all there. And then I sometimes have these moments of am I born 300 years too early? This is actually going to happen in my lifetime. But what I keep reminding everybody and any viewers to do is it will happen as fast as you allow it to happen inside you.
Right.
Because what I'm seeing in my reality is when I align to these dreams and these things, I am just seeing that in my field. I'm seeing successful people who are operating from different things, who are mindful. The menstruation work is coming in strong in my circles. I live it at home. I live it in the Garden of Alchemy. My partner and me, we live this stuff. And this is the only way that I have enough confidence to bring this in, is that it seems to be working. Mm-hmm. That when we are working with our natural rhythms, which is different to time.
Yes.
Time is very much, in our culture, with routine. It's very square and very linear. Whereas rhythm has got much more of an undulating energy.
And there are so many rhythms within rhythm as well.
Yeah.
So it's like you were saying about the moon cycle, but then you have a year cycle, and then you have the seasons, and within a day there can be all sorts of things that show up, especially at the moment. I mean, for anybody who's really sensitive, it's you can, for me, I can wake up in the morning feeling really down, or there's a lot of stuff moving through, and by the end of the day I'm elated, and I'm having to work with those cycles of the way the energy is moving through the day as well. It's not just me, it's all of it.
Absolutely.
And I'm working with that whole, working with creation as part of creation. We've tried to we've separated ourselves out from creation. We think that we can be above it and control it, which is what time is, right? It's a way of trying to control. And I was saying to you earlier that I live on the meridian line, and just knowing that there's something so potent in that, of shifting that mentality away from that rigid use of time to the sort of more spacious, cyclical and non-linear. I don't experience time as linear anymore. It's it's almost impossible sometimes to explain how I experience it, and what can be achieved within a period of time just by having intention, and then letting go, and allowing myself, my body, to be informed, and allowing. And that's another thing about the cacao, I think, isn't it? For me, my experience, I feel much more embodied when I drink it as well. It's a real opportunity to really drop into my physical form, and then we can be informed, because we are nature, and that love energy is informing us all the time.
Absolutely. And it's, moving on, I've got bullet points dropping through today. It sounds feminine, and I feel very gridded. But I think this is when you work with medicines for a long time, you kind of start to become the medicine. You become that frequency. It's just it's in your field so much of the time that you start to think like cacao would think, or think like ayahuasca would think, or think like Kambo would think. And one of the things that I notice with cacao is, is the self-care piece. And we were talking about this earlier on. And self-care is like, again, this compartmentalized thing that you do after work. You know, you go to do your yoga, you go to have your bath, you go to your retreat center because you're so frazzled you need a week. And again, so there's an awakening happening on the planet. It's just kind of getting added on to the beginning and ends of weekends of the day, you know?
My spirituality happens over here.
Yes.
I'm not actually living it. Like, I'm not living
Yeah.
self-care in every moment.
And I don't know about you, but I've never been able to work a 9 to 5. So hands off to the people who can get up, do a morning practice, a full days of work, and then some kind of spiritual practice in the evening.
Yeah.
And actually have any sense of humor in the process, you know, like that just sounds like very OCD and conformist and controlled, you know. And so much about these rhythms are about empty times to be bored in, because through boredom, you know, through pain, through the not knowing, through the voids, that's where it births. But how do we empower individuals to trust that process? You know, and so by creating structures like that still can follow a routine, but it becomes more of a ritual. So you're just swapping routine to ritual.
Ooh, I like that.
And
I
you're
like
bringing
that.
in those rituals. So you can just start and close your day with a sense. You, as a company, you get to not only like tap into, let's say you're the CEO or the main founders of a company, you get to tap into, you know, what has been your truth, what has been your excitement, and you get to spread that. But really what you're doing is you're not trying to create a bunch of followers. What you're trying to do is you're trying to like ignite the spark in each person.
Yeah.
You know, and this is the difference between old paradigm and new paradigm. And this is the bit where the confusion can get very hard, because people are so conditioned to have an external structure to base their life on. They need time, they need routines, because they have totally lost the inability to listen to themselves.
I was going to say, and somebody else to follow as well. It's like that paradigm of the guru is just falling apart now, because we have to source it from ourselves.
Yeah. And then it denotes to control. So like my experiences, my biggest fears always arise before they get cleared. And one of them would be like, well, if I just live my life, you know, tuning into me and listening to what I want to do, like, won't I just, you know, my fear, won't I just not belong anywhere? You know, won't I just be like, yeah, I'm willing to take that to the death because I'm like quite like that. But is there like a third way, you know, like another way where I can still be myself, follow my path, and that brings me into relation with other people? And not only brings me into relationship, it creates more from that relationship. And I think that's, you know, this exciting place where a lot of self-employed people, for example, pull out of systems, you know, and then it's very much them on their own trying to create some kind of company. And I don't know about you, but I've always found that, you know, support comes, you know, you receive more support on the outside when you're supporting yourself. So as we start to learn, I think the natural tendency of human beings is to go into relational fields. Even if you're quite a loner and your idea is to write a book that's going to, you know, speak to other people, there's still a relational field happening. We're not isolated beings, nor are the trees in the forest.
So there was that thing that I heard somebody saying recently in an interview, that like he was talking about the interview they were having that in that moment, and how actually it was being informed by everybody who would ever watch it, that field. So it's like whatever's coming out of like us right now is a response to what's in the field. And so it's like everybody that watches has some input somehow energetically. So if you're writing that book, actually it's still a response. You're in relationship. Like, we're actually always in relationship with everything.
Yeah. What's that thing of like, if it's been thought, it's done, and also there are no new ideas. So it's often that thing, you know, you get an idea, and if you don't act on it, you see it manifest in the world. And you think, I had that idea.
Oh my God, I've had so many of those.
And actually, one of the things I think Cacao does is it drops you, like, it almost like peels back the layers and puts you into that field of interconnectedness easier. It's like almost like the pathways of the brain work a little bit better. So suddenly you're not so operated from that like linear logic point of the brain, which really wants to build on So you become more abstract, and when you become more abstract, the pathways create different combinations. And when you're in an abstract state of mind, like a theta-based kind of brainwave, with someone else who's in a theta brainwave, then suddenly, abstract ideas can create new synapses, and suddenly, poof, you've birthed something new. And then, boom, you're back into the logic side, and then you make it happen. Like it's about the relationship too, but in our culture we don't make enough time for abstract thinking. We don't make enough time to
We don't value the beingness.
Yeah, which is where we drop into that part of the brain. So it's like we're never really off anyway. Even when we're daydreaming and sleeping, there is part of us always working, and it is having a trust that in the being, because what I like to see it is, when I'm not doing, I'm allowing life to do it for me. So I'm allowing life to line up all the people, all the place. I just dreaming, brain synapses. And then what's happening is my intuition's lining up, my alignment's happening. Boom, oh, I feel to go to this place today. And oh, look, I bump into someone who knows this. And then all the magic starts. You go, whoa, this is amazing. I was just thinking about this. And actually, in some levels, it's not magic, but it is magic. It's kind of like,
we call it magic.
It's magic because you'd spend forever trying to figure out the details, but it's not magic because it's on some level the most logical thing ever. When you get into that alignment of energy, of course that's going to show up on the field. There's nothing more logical than that, and yet it feels magical because we can't predict how that's going to happen. We could have a thought of like, oh, I need to market my cacao, so I will go to an advertising agency and pay them lots of money. But actually, if we drink the cacao will say, that just makes me feel a bit heavy, and like, oh, I've got to spend loads of money. So what shall I do, cacao? What shall I do? And then we just wait, and and then you bump into someone, and then they say, I was just thinking about advertising, and and before you know it, your cacao's gone off on a complete other tangent.
And I do want to say, you don't need to be drinking cacao for all of the.
You must have it.
You
in
need
your
to
veins.
be drinking this cacao.
No, you don't.
You do, really. No. Actually, do you know? I have to say, I am going to say this, and like, I don't really do these videos. I don't do these videos to plug things, but I am going to plug this because actually, the cup of cacao today that we had was the best I've ever had, and I've had some really nice cacao. But it was really, really stunning. But I mean, all the medicines, they're bringing us into these aspects of ourselves that are maybe dormant, aren't they? So it's not necessarily that it's not something outside of ourselves. It's helping us harmonize with that frequency that already exists within inside of ourselves.
Absolutely.
Like when I work with flower essences, it's like they're holding the vibration of what is already in me, but maybe is dormant, or I just need some support to.
And
to
even
access.
the word medicine denotes that something isn't well, that needs fixing. And I think we can have quite an ego about like, I don't need any medicines because I'm just gonna like grind it and get there naturally, which is true. Like you can totally get wherever, anywhere is anyway, but that's not the point. The point is being humble enough to know that you have shortcomings, to know that you come from ancestral programmings that are deep, to know that, but even just reaching out to ask for help, whether it be a medicine from a person or through a therapist or whatever, that you are self-resourcing yourself, you're self-caring, and that is the smartest thing you can do. And which kind of brings me back full circle to something me and my partner were talking about, is it's smartness. This is like a really interesting area as well. Like I grew up in Ireland, and very much had the story that I wasn't smart because I was dyslexic, and actually because of the type of person that I am, I kind of only want to be like totally passionate about everything, even back then. So I just focused on the subjects that I was passionate about and did really well, which were, mostly non-academic subjects. And later on in life, I found myself getting to places where like, I want to write this book, and up comes you're not smart enough. You didn't get the A in English, and you didn't like, who are you to think you can write a book when people have done English literature in university, and so I've been thinking a lot about smart and the wound, And there's a kind of two schools of thought, which is one is face the fear and do it anyway, which I've done a lot of, and then that works to a point, but it's quite high adrenals. And yeah, the other point is reframing. Is reframing what I think smart is. And for me, smart is not what I thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
So smart is nothing to do with academia, memory.
Mm-hmm.
For me, smart is actually to do with self-listening. Like, for me, the
Nice.
smartest people out there know how to self-listen, and they know how to self-resource and self-care based on that little voice.
Self-validate.
And
I'm liking that one at the
self-validate.
moment.
And for me, that changes everything. So on my trajectory, I'm only ever going to employ, work, or co-create with people that are smart thinkers. And that is not, I don't give a poodle what their CV says.
Yeah.
I'll be watching them to see how they actually deal with themselves. Because, once you start to do that within yourself, you can just see it in everybody else. And it's then you're building a team of like-minded, smart people. And the smartest thing to do is to know that you are not in control. The smartest thing to know is that there is a greater dream that wants to be birthed through you. The smartest thing to know is where your role in that is. That is smart. The smartest thing is to not go, I did that, I created that, look at me, I own a company, I have lots of money, I'm so smart. And so maybe in our little fantasy we can put it out there that the entire educational system will drink cacao first thing in the morning. It's not really about the cacao.
For the teachers. Anyway.
It's not really about the cacao. The cacao is just coming in as a physical anchor into, like, wouldn't it be wonderful to go in and talk elementals? But the thing is, I see right now this is a gateway medicine that's going to open the consciousness so that people are able to get into the place to do the kind of work that you're doing. Like, for me, my whole journey has been about resensitizing, because I put so many shields to survive in a very patriarchal world. Suddenly I have to take all the shields off, and then not only do I do that, then I've got to learn how to be in the world as this little sensitive being. And what cacao does really nicely is it creates that transition. Really well. So for a lot of people who are maybe new to ceremony, new to things, it's got a bit of a bump. It's got a bit of a oomph behind it. It's not. It just opens the door, and then it works with intentions. It works with prayer. It works with whatever it is you're wanting to birth in the world. And so hopefully it comes in like, I shouldn't use really a war analogy, but I'm seeing like, what could I say? It comes in like the new seedlings on land, like let's say like volcanic land that's just been rock and whatever. And the very first plants that come in, they're often like mosses and lichens. I think the birch tree comes in, and then the old trees follow behind. And there's a movement, a progression of nature, And it's a bit like that in the conscious world, The medicines are coming in. Sometimes the big boys, like the ayahuascas and the peyotes and stuff, because they've got to really like, look, people, see the bigger picture, reconnect. You are so asleep. And then the cacao comes in and it's like, right, let's change habitual programming. Let's rebuild a different structure. And then the flower essences and the much gentler frequencies come in, and they start to like soften the edges and start to just open portals and dimensions and more expansive ways. But there's an order to these things on some level, and different people will be attracting what they want. And I'm quite a dynamic, adventure-driven, Irish background, totally don't know where I belong kind of person. And I have one foot in the magical, mystical realm of all of this spiritual stuff we talk about, but I also have one foot really wanting to be here, like in this dimension, like really wanting to like, like I want to feel the spirit nature of the tree. And that's why I do plant medicine. I love having it, but I want to take that and I want to bring it back in so that my relationship with my children is functioning, my relationship with my partner, my work. I don't want it to be this place I go to just escape.
Yeah.
And I see that a lot.
I really love what you're saying. And I've really felt that in this last week. That's been coming up for me a lot. This feeling of like these realms birthing into the physical right now, you know, through us, through our listening, through our connection with the plants and with nature, whether we're taking it or whether we're sitting with it, you know, like, and I, yeah, it's been really interesting feeling this energy that's coming through, and like we are these like portals to like birth it into our realities, like to help us with the practical stuff. It's not, you're so right, it's not about being out there and going and having our beautiful spiritual experiences. I mean, yes, it is about that. It totally is about that, but it's about that so that we bring it into our daily lives. And that's why we're talking about business, because it's so practical. And I'm really excited about this conversation right now around business, which I'm totally surprised to find myself
Me
in.
too.
You know, I'm like, I don't know all about like elemental and stuff. And suddenly, and I was thinking, I don't know if you know, guys know about the gene keys, but one of my gene keys specifically talks about marketing from the heart. And I'm like starting to see this come in now. I never thought I'd be having these kind of conversations, and I feel like I'm just stepping into something really new right now, that there's a new template. That's what I feel like. I feel like there's this like, I feel like, I don't know, this year with all the craziness that's been happening, there's like something so new birthing, and at the same time as the collapse, there's like this new energy coming in, where we get to live life. We've been preparing for this for so long, and I feel like the foundations are really there now, and something so new is coming through. Like the elementals were showing me. I was asking them the other day, like, I had to really inquire, like, do I really co-create with them? Am I actually doing that? And they were saying yes, but they were starting to show me that it doesn't look how I thought it looked. And I don't yet really know what that is, because it's like such a new frequency.
But I think, you know, one of the things that we like to work with in our culture is forecasting. You know, like that would be a business term. I didn't do business studies, but I imagine they would say, what is the forecast? What is the 5-year plan? What is the business plan? You can't get a loan. You can't get a business loan without. You can't get a loan from the bank without a business plan. I mean, my business would plan be like, one day at a time.
I'm gonna go sit and meditate with a tree.
So this actually what this new paradigm is very much about like making peace with sitting in the unknown, sitting in the void, because this is an aspect that human beings are so frightened of, is this void, because often in the void and creating the space and the beingness will bring up a lot of unresolved issues that need to be healed. And actually that's why we have this yin and yang part of the month for us, because we have this capacity to be able to clean through and understand and heal and then birth. And it's like the in-breath and the out-breath. And everything about this dual planet is to do with that relationship. So you can, like, what I try to think of is just keep bringing it back to balance. Is the tendency to say always and, you know, never can be very strong in my programming. And it's like, sometimes. And why I was saying all this was, why was I saying all this? Yeah. Everything that is happening to us is happening for us. Every thing that arises in our life needs to be addressed and looked at as part of a collective healing. And through that, the pathways open, the intuitive channels open through the capacity to feel more emotions through the body, more energy. And the courage increases when you know, oh, I can hold more. The light increases as much as the dark, but also so does the veil opening. You're able to have previews, should I say, which maybe arrive as visions or intuitive ideas. And a vision is very different to a plan. You know, a vision is very much something that will drop in, and if it is meant to be in the field, it will drop in again and again. It will. So we talk about this kind of, you know, moving from this old way of business to the new way of business, but we do have to give some kind of framework in the fact, even if it's a framework that isn't a framework, to say that part of this way of being will be dropping future stories. Like part of this new way of business will be living present moment living. And that's going to be a very hard thing for people to get their head around. That in an ultimate reality field, when we are living in the present, you know, the next moment will unfold, the next moment will unfold. And it is from that present moment reality that the dream exists, the vision exists, only in that present moment reality.
Mm-hmm.
And so, how do you then start to structure a business on some kind of reality like that? You know, how do you do that? I don't know what to do. That sounds all very nice, but practically, it's not. And actually, practically, it boils down to you just take a little bit of space in the morning. It's quite simple. You reflect on where your energy is. Are you feeling motivated to do some paperwork? Are you feeling motivated to go meet some people? You know, what do you do? Can you act on that from those people? What gets birthed? Just noticing. And then at the end of the day, which is another big part of the process, I don't know how businesses would do this yet because I haven't drunk enough cacao yet. Closing things, you know, opening and closing segments of time. You know, this idea of like, you know, allowing creative energy to live within containers, and as human beings, learning how to create rhythms and structures so people can feel a sense of safety and have guidance within that while still having space to create and birth more, if that makes any sense. So I think it's asking of leadership in a big way, like self-leadership. And that's been something that I've journeyed a lot with.
And a lot of the leaders to really humble as well, you know, and to receive wisdom from the people around them as well. I think the whole structure, it's so interesting as you're talking like these. I'm aware we're like an hour in now, and I feel like all these like other bits are like dropping in as well. Like there's there's so many directions to go in this conversation, because the whole ego, I know we touched on it earlier, the whole ego structure has to change, of like actually who, like, is there anybody actually in control? And you need somebody holding a container, but that person has to be humble and willing enough to listen to the other people, and for wisdom to come in from, for everybody to be holding a piece of the puzzle for to co-create together.
Absolutely. And I think, you know, like from a viewer point of view, like all I would wish for is that you would start to feel excited that there is new ways of doing things starting to
that's
happen.
Lovely.
And just to be curious, you know, just
Love
to be curious,
yeah.
like what would it be if I showed up a little bit different to, you know, I got this essay to write for my exams. What would it be to just sit and have a cacao, or just sit and do a meditation before I sit down and do, like, how is the quality? Like, be your own experiment. Start to see, you know, like what businesses out there do you actually notice that work on a way that you're inspired by, you know, like actually just opening up your intentional field to be like, show me that, show me people. Because that was one of my first things in my journey. It was like these ideas dropped in, and then I was like, yeah, but who's doing this? No one's doing this. I'm not going to be the only one doing this. And then actually, as I sat, I started to notice, oh, more and more businesses started to come into my reality field that were working more ethically, more sustainably. And then the next piece is more spiritually. Like, I think the sustainable piece is strong because it fits into the practical. The science adds up, you know. We can say we need to be more sustainable, it helps the planet, but actually for me sustainability is not full sustainability unless it has a spiritual aspect in it. Because it is that, like, you know, indigenous, let's work like we're leaving it for 7 generations. You know, let's work like we're healing the last 7 generations.
The idea, the purpose behind business itself, this is what was dropping in when you were talking earlier. I was like, oh, there's a whole point that we haven't even touched on here. It's like the whole purpose of business has to change. You know, like business is what's kind of destroying. It's part of. I mean, it's part of what's destroying our ecosystems, is the way businesses
and our souls.
Yeah. So like the whole foundation of why are we doing business? Why am I doing this? Why am I showing up for this? Is this in alignment with me? Like, do I do I believe? Do I have faith in what I'm doing? Do I trust what I'm doing? Am I in alignment? I mean, it's really
and all these
back
things
to
can
basics
very quickly cycle into like a headspace, you know, and so
got to ask from the heart, right?
yeah, and this is
Ask
the thing is I
ourselves.
think these conversations are really great for people to have, and like just have with your friends. Contemplate what new business structures could look like in a win-win, love-orientated.
How do I want to live my life?
Exactly.
It's like this feeling for me right now of like
Just like I am.
This is a
That
business
is the
day.
answer.
This is a work day.
Yeah,
You
this
know,
is it. This is my work.
How do I want my life to look?
Yeah.
You know, like what brings me joy?
But for me, it's just dropping the future, dropping the past, finding my own rhythm, listening to myself. It's very simple things with a lot of words wrapped all around them.
Yeah.
And when I drop into ceremony, when I drop into creating space, when I do that, everything is so clear. It's so crystal clear. I don't need to second think anything. You know, I don't. If I'm second thinking things, I'm in my head. So just to be able to bring that beyond the little ceremony that people are doing on an individual journey, and to be able to just inspire people to just do it your way. Let the cacao, let whatever medicine you're working with show you, but be experimental. Bring your business to the next level. You know, start to think smart. You know, start to think about beings as whole beings. You know, whole beings, not little business people, not profit margin, not clogs in a system like our educational system. Everything is built on that. You know, we're gonna. I reckon. You know, I reckon the whole shebang is going to change. You know, and then what's going to happen? People are going to be lost, and they're going to be looking for new ways of doing things. So if you're feeling the call to show up in the world in a different way, then that call I'm validating to you. That call is real. I hear that call myself. I hear that in my friends. You know, it's now. We show up. We show up in every moment to our reality, to our truth. And if we need to learn a lesson, if we need to be humbled because, you know, we've been playing out a pattern that's old, then embrace that too and be humble and learn and then grow again. But don't hold yourself back out of fear of being yourself, you know, or spiritually bypass, you know, by not feeling the pain and not feeling the wounds. So I'm feeling like
it must be time to complete, mustn't it? Do you think there's like, because I know we could probably talk for like 5 more hours or
and
something.
just to say that's an insight to Cacao working in business. My new book will be out in I don't know when.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited by this conversation about business and
whoever thought business would be exciting.
Not for me.
Exactly.
Not for me. I remember I was going to go off another story then, but I'm really surprised by this piece that's dropping in right now, and it's only by me like starting to create wanting to create a new business that this is dropping in, and I knew, I think I shared this with you earlier, like I knew that I couldn't do business until I had reached a point in myself, and like now that I have touched on it and it's started to open, like there is so much more available. I don't know where I was going with that then, but it's like whatever wants to be birthed through me had to come from this new place. Like I know my guides would sort of say to me, or my inner wisdom or my knowing would be like, there's no point in me trying to birth something into this reality that's from that old paradigm. I haven't come here to do that. And I think, you know, probably, you know, anybody listening is going to be of that new paradigm energy, and they've got something like you were just speaking to that. And as you were speaking to that, I really could feel like, I wonder how much the old structures will collapse, or whether people are just going to start leaving them. You know, they might start running and they might carry on going, but people are going to start leaving them and creating the new. And maybe they collapse once there's nobody left there.
I see it as the butterfly analogy. It's like we're now in the cocoon dissolving and reforming, and it hasn't been birthed, and we're in a trial and error, and we're in a kind of birthing process.
We're in a dreaming.
Yeah, it's kind of uncomfortable as well, you know, and then it's like amazingly exciting, and then it's really uncomfortable.
Oh my God, I've so been going through that.
Like labor is.
Contraction, and then Although some women know how to, like, have had the experience of orgasmically doing it. So
yes, that's going to be us. We're going to have orgasmic business. So, I just wanted to say to everyone out there to just kind of reflect on what their current thinkings is on business, and just to carry that maybe through your day or your week, or just like start to think about, like, so much about what we think about business is programming. And so start to just go, which bits of it do I really like and resonate, and which bits of it just feel a bit icky, and maybe to start to do some inquiry around that, to start to actually question it and get curious. What would it be to challenge that, or to not do that, or so,
or to even begin to have that dream, a different dream.
And just the confidence that I can just hand on heart say that I'm living this, and it's working. And the more stillness, even though we've talked at 100 miles an hour today, but we prepared. The more stillness and dropping in, the more stuff actually weirdly happens on the outside, and it's a paradoxical shift in our
the dropping into the frequency of ourselves, and then of what we want to create. We could do a whole other
and dropping in could be a healing crisis. Like, dropping in could be, just gonna,
I had one of those last week. Can I share this really cool thing that I did? I created this first online program that I've ever done. And like, after the first call, a part of me just went into complete meltdown, and I was just freaking out. And I've experienced this before, and I couldn't actually handle the energy that was going through me before. So I gave everybody their money back, and I was just like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't birth this. And this time I did this really cool thing where I saw the container of what I'd created, and I knew that there was this aspect of me that was completely in alignment, that was completely whole, that was completely connected to all the wisdom that container and that journey was holding. And I sent her over there, and she went and just held the container. And then I broke down, and I allowed myself to completely go in and like have my meltdown and do my inner work, so that then I could expand and drop back into her again. But it was this like amazing. I felt like I bilocated. I felt like I split, and I was in two places at once. It was a really like amazing experience, and I was like, wow, I can do both things at the same time. It's just really cool. So there are all these new ways. There are new ways being birthed, that where we can do it all.
Absolutely. And just by like finding rhythm, ritual, dropping routine, planning, starting to become more comfortable in the void and the unknown, starting to be confident of our truth regardless, to stop double thinking, to that our truth is the truth, and it's always an evolving process. My truth tomorrow might be different, and
God, even in an hour sometimes.
And self-responsibility to be knowing that this holographic reality we live in is in a constant feedback system to us.
That's beautiful.
So, every friend, every connection is part of ourselves.
And speaking to us. And that's where the humbling comes in, I think, sometimes, to just stand in front of somebody and listen to what they've got to say. When sometimes we think we know it all, right? I mean, I definitely go into those places, and I'm really enjoying just becoming so much more present to like, wow, what's coming through to me right now? Like, this person in front of me is the divine creation, is God, right? You're like source, your love, like, and you're here to help guide me home. Like,
for sure. But also, like, my path is so humbling. Like, I can get really big ego. That's probably why I've ended up working with the medicine of Cacao as well. I do Cacao maybe at least once every 2 months, if not once a month, and that's it resets my system for me. It just, it's so easy when the spiritual aspect starts to flower, the ego will come along and go, yes, I did that. That was all me. Did you see how I did that? I
Look
feel
how
like
I split myself into two things.
yeah,
So clever.
yes. And I want you to all give me validation, and then my self-worth slips out and back into the other person again. And so working with medicines, and for me, Cambo has been such a medicine of like not being afraid of pain. Like not being afraid of pain. It's a natural part of the process.
Yeah.
It's a natural part. Like, I think it was Matt Kahn or someone was saying, like he cries every day. Like our emotions wave. Like, we go through all the emotions, and we just have to like let them, like an energy body through the system, cleanse. There's nothing wrong with anger, there's nothing wrong with sadness. It's when we don't feel those feelings, or when we particularly identify with them, that the problem is. So working with anything, any intention, just keep it simple. One intention a day, and just watch as the magic unfolds. And I think that's all I can say today. I think I'm
beautiful.
talked out.
That's a really nice place to finish, to allow that magic to flow. Wowza, well, we've had a beautiful journey. What have I got?
Bug.
Oh, so many little bugs. And I like it, you have had this like beautiful being like really attached to you through this. So yeah.
Yes, I might be prickly, but I have nice fruit. Is the way I show up in the world. I might prickle your reality, but yes. So thank you.
Fruit.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
that was
thank
so much
you.
fun.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I like doing it in the garden as well. It's
Definitely,
really nice.
Definitely. In
the
Garden of Alchemy.
Yes, and I'm gonna just show it one more time.
Yeah, get it, because you know what? This is not just about like me making a profit margin. This is about like supporting these farmers in Ecuador and keeping these old traditions going. And also, this is about like spreading love.
Totally.
Like this.
That's
is really
the only reason I'm like up for plugging it, because I just see it as valuable medicine. I don't feel like I'm plugging a product more than like supporting the expansion of consciousness.
Yeah. But imagine all products were like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, why would I not be afraid of like plugging you right now? Like,
yeah, because that's all paradigm stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, bye.
Okay. Thank you so much for watching, everybody, and just sending you all so much love. And if you've enjoyed this interview, please do like and subscribe, because I'm going to be bringing through more interviews around different aspects of living from the heart and what that means to different people, alongside doing the elemental stuff as well. So, and about business, it seems, as well. So let's see where this goes. So much love to you all, and so much love to you. Thank you so much for being here. It's really
Go spread the love.
Yay.